Hi guys, I'm Dan, this is Kai, we're the directors at Crescent Mortgages. Today's FAMQ will be telling you a bit more about how to buy a flat. It may seem straightforward, but there are actually quite a few areas where you can trip up compared to buying a house. So we're going to go through them, tell you a few things to look out for, make sure you pick the right one, and hopefully get you in that dream apartment. Let's jump into it. Before we do, just to remind you, we are CMAP qualified mortgage and protection brokers with 20 years experience in the industry. And we love what we do, so we just want to share it with you guys. Thanks a lot. So, many of you watching this video will be interested in purchasing a flat, which obviously is a hugely popular type of property to buy in the UK and across Europe and the rest of the world. It's absolutely fine, you can get a mortgage on a flat, really common. However, there are a few pitfalls and there are a few potential risks and issues that can arise compared to buying a house. Not for every flat, but there are kind of certain things that can really limit your options. So we just want to highlight the potential limitations, just so you potentially give you some guidance on which flats to look at and maybe which ones to potentially avoid if you're going to need a mortgage. First of all, before we get into the actual details of the property itself, I think there's something that Kai wanted to tell you.
The deposit. The deposit. So the deposit is probably the first sticking point for most. So you will need...
Sorry, I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, I know you did. So you will normally need, in any purchase, at least a 5% deposit. But with a flat, sometimes you might need more. So rather than 5%, you might need a 10% or a 15% deposit. 15% is normally enough for most. But when you look at that compared to, say, a house, often you can get away with just a 5% deposit, 10% okay with most. So you will need potentially need a slightly bigger deposit proportionally.
With a lot of lenders.
And with a lot of lenders.
Not to say that some lenders won't accept the smallest 5 or 10% deposit, but you're just going to limit your options, which obviously means less lenders to choose from, potentially not as competitive an interest rate. And if it's combined with other limitations around your circumstances, you could soon find that you don't actually have many options at all. As far as and just quickly, if you're purchasing a new build flat, sometimes they are even stricter with the size of the deposit required. So they do need sometimes a little bit more than if it's a pre-owned older flat. As far as the property itself, so we're just going to talk you through quickly some of the key limitations that will actually rule out some or a lot of lenders. So we'll go through them nice and quickly.
Yeah.
The first one, did you want to start?
Yeah, okay. So cladding on a property. So generally for slightly higher rise blocks, not necessarily high rise, but 4 or 5 floors and above, may need checks around the cladding, or if they need cladding or various checks on properties like that.
Yeah, essentially following the Grenfell disaster a few years ago, they've obviously done a nationwide review of the safety of blocks of flats, especially with cladding and the combustible materials used. So when you're purchasing a flat, maybe ask the agent, does this property fall within the cladding fire safety requirements? That the form that would need to be completed if it does is an EWS1 form. So if you use that term, they'll know what that means. If the flat or the building does need that form and it's not been done, or that report and it's not been done, or it has been done and they've confirmed that work needs to be carried out on the building which hasn't been carried out, so it's not deemed safe, then you probably are going to struggle to obtain a mortgage on that one. So definitely keep an eye out for that and ask the question to the estate agent. Do you want to go next?
Yeah, I'll go again.
It is my turn, but go on then.
Yeah, I'll go again. Yeah, why not? Properties above commercial premises. So that could be hairdressers, that could be a takeaway, that could be office, it could be news agents.
The list goes on. Restaurant. Directly above or in a building above with commercial premises on the ground floor. A lot of lenders don't like to go near it. But again, it is possible, subject to valuation. A lot of the time, the type of commercial premises will make a big difference. If it's just a 9 to 5 office, sometimes they may be okay with that. If it's if they serve hot food or it's open until late hours, a lot of the time a lender doesn't want to lend on a flat above those premises, and you may find that the mortgage is declined. The length of the lease. So every flat 99% of flats will be leasehold. So the building that they're in will be freehold, and then each individual flat will have a lease on it. Generally, you want the lease to be at least I think if it's over kind of 80 or 90 years remaining on the lease, you should be absolutely fine. As soon as you start to get below kind of 80 years to 70 to 60 years, a lot of lenders are going to say that's too short and they won't lend on it. So maybe if you can try and find a flat that has a lease that's, at least 80, 90, 100 years, or ideally more if you can.
The
High rise.
last one's high rise, wasn't it?
I'll go.
Oh, go on then.
So if the block of flats has more than X number of floors, a lot of lenders won't go near it. Every lender has a different kind of limit. So some will go up to 7 floors, some will go up to 10 floors, some will go up to 20 floors. But the higher the number of floors in the building, the less lenders that will lend on that property. So if you're looking at a real kind of high-rise block of flats, again, speak to your broker to see what kind of lenders you are going to have as an option, because if it is very high, there are some lenders that won't go near it. Sometimes the exception is in London, where some lenders are willing to lend on a flat within a higher kind of block of flats, because obviously there's loads of flats in London, and the value, they do tend to hold their value maybe more than other areas in the country. There was actually one other that we've nearly forgotten.
Ex-local authority, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think. I would just quickly add on the max number of floors. 4 generally is fine with everyone. If you're 4 or below in max floors, that's generally fine.
What they will say
And
though
just
is
like that.
4 or more floors, generally the building needs to be serviced by a lift. If you've got a 7-floor building and there's no lift in the building,
You don't want to live there anyway.
No. All right, mate.
So it's a lot of walking.
Yeah, I mean, it is hard work, but if you get your steps in. But if there's not a lift, then there is kind of over 4 or 5 floors. And again, a lot of lenders won't lend on that.
And an ex-local authority.
Ex-local authority.
Yeah.
So if it's an ex-council flat, some lenders are fine with it, others don't like it. A lot of ex-council flats have what's called deck access, which is basically kind of an external communal balcony that wraps around the building. You may be familiar with that on a lot of kind of high-rise blocks of ex-council flats. If it has deck access, some lenders will do it, but it is a big challenge. We do see I've seen a lot of mortgages decline when the property has deck access. So, if you love the property, we may be able to make it work subject to valuation, but it is a challenge. If you can avoid it, but perhaps you should, especially if, again, there are other limitations around your circumstances. That's kind of the main limitation to look out for regarding the actual property. If it kind of falls into any of those categories, either steer clear or speak to your broker so they can do some research to kind of get the finer details. Just a couple of final things regarding extra costs.
Yeah.
When you purchase a flat.
Yeah, there are a couple there. So there'll be a one-off extra cost when you buy through your solicitor. So there might be an extra fee for the legal work relating to a leasehold property. Again, it's normally in the hundreds to 300, in and around that ballpark.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world. It is a one-off payment because there's a bit more extra legal work for them to do.
Exactly. So that's a one-off. But the bigger one is the...
Yeah, it's a monthly ground rent and monthly service charge, which most flats will require on a monthly basis after you've purchased the property. So on top of your mortgage payment, on top of your council tax, on top of your utilities, there's also going to be those ground rent and service charge, which, depending on the flat that you buy, it could be a couple of pounds a month, it could be hundreds and hundreds of pounds a month, and it's basically what you pay because you're within a flat within a bigger building. So a lot of the time it's kind of paying towards the upkeep of the building and that kind of thing. But make sure you ask the question when you're interested in a property of what they're going to be, because again, if that's an extra £300 a month as a service charge, which I guess is on the higher side, but it's very possible, then you need to budget for that monthly service charge for the foreseeable future, for as long as you own that flat. I think that pretty much covers everything.
That's the key ones, yeah.
Yeah, but again, any questions, or if you are interested in a flat and you want to run the details past us, leave them in the comments or give us a call, and we will see you next time. Thanks a lot.